What's up, everybody? It's HBT, man, with Straight Up Wrestling Show. Guys, I am pretty much caught up. Me, myself, my family, Christopher Burton's family, we all caught up in this Hurricane Helen thing. Guys, Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Helen or whatever you want to call it. I believe it's called Hurricane Helen. Pretty much wreaking havoc here in the Carolinas, wreaking havoc down in Florida and some other southern states or whoever's in its path. Hurricane Helen has been wreaking havoc, guys. So we haven't been on in a while. We haven't been on at all today at all. So it's a Friday. It's a Friday, guys. And man, by the time you get to hear this is probably a few days from here. It could be Saturday. It could be Sunday. It could be Monday or Tuesday when you get to hear this podcast, guys. Basically, I'm just here and I'm just going to talk a little bit, man. I'm going to talk a little bit about wrestling. Not too much. Let's talk about a few wrestlers, man, that excited me as a child, man. Just pretty much piqued my interest. Every time I came out, I got that spirit. I mean, that human spirit was lifted up, started getting those chills or whatever. Love seeing certain guys, man, that just, pretty much just, I guess you could say move the needle, but pretty much move the human spirit that, pretty much charged you up and really gave you a good feeling to see that person come out in the wrestling ring. And I mean, there's a few that did that when I was growing up, man. And it's not many that do that to this day. But that's something I would like to get back to. I wish I could really get back to as far as having a wrestler who can come out and who can pretty much pique my interest like that, or pretty much just get me charged up and make me smile and say, "Wow, man, I'm love seeing this guy. Happy to see this guy. I know I'm gonna get a lot of excitement out the watching this guy go in the ring and do the work that he's trained, for so long to do." So, I mean, it's only a few wrestlers that's been able to do that, but I'm gonna go all the way back to my childhood. Let me think of somebody who really did that. The first wrestler that actually moved me, man, and actually gave me that, feeling, gave me goosebumps when I watched him wrestle, and that was Nature Boy Ric Flair. And I will say that's around like 1975. That's probably few years after I started watching the sport. But, I didn't have no interest in the sport until I seen him change his persona. Because first time I seen him, he was wrestling. He was teaming up with Rip Hulk. And he was, kind of like a big guy, a chubby guy, like, pretty much a power lifter guy. But he came back after the plane crash, and this guy came back with the Nature Boy gimmick. He was something totally different, smaller, more athletic, pretty much. I ain't gonna really say that. Probably he was more athletic when he was a bigger guy before he had the plane crash. He probably was a little bit bigger, high flying, doing a lot of different power moves. He was doing a lot of things, but came back this technical wrestler, man, a great wrestler, a great guy on the microphone, man. Great skills on the mic. This guy did so many phenomenal things, in and out of the ring. He was just incredible to see. So every time I saw him, come out to perform, I would get this certain feeling. Or anytime he come out to talk, I would get this certain feeling. I'm just like, wow. It was like watching one of my favorite singers. It was like listening to a Michael Jackson song, or listening to Muhammad Ali speak, or watching Dr. J play basketball. Those was my favorite. Watching. I hate to say it, but even O.J. Simpson, he was my favorite football player at that time, and Roger Staubach was my favorite quarterback of all time. At that time. So it was like watching them, when I watched Ric Flair. But Ric Flair, I have to say, Ric Flair pretty much outpaced all of them. Love watching Ric Flair, and he just gave me that, that feeling that not many wrestlers generate at all. And it's only, like I said, it's only a few wrestlers that's been able to do that. The next one is his nemesis, guys. The guy who he had a rivalry with for so many years. Guy who's been in the ring with hundreds of times, and I'm literally talking about hundreds of times. And that's Ricky Steamboat, guys. Ricky Steamboat, rather as a singles wrestler or a tag team wrestler, Ricky Steamboat gave me that same feeling. Ricky Steamboat moved the human spirit. hey, man, he gave me, goosebumps anytime I got to see him perform. And the reason I'm saying, these guys gave me goosebumps, or, the reason I'm saying that is because I was excited to see them, and I knew I was going to get passion. I was going to get a lot of passion in that match. I was going to get the real in that match, the real deal, that these guys were going to go hard and everything. He was going to make me so happy. It was like a kid, man. It was like a kid with a brand new big wheel, or a doggone new Tonka truck, or a new G.I. Joe. That's how I felt when I watched these guys wrestle. Very exciting to watch these guys, man. 100%. So yeah, Ricky Steamboat, another guy, man, back in the 70s. This is back in the 70s. I'm going back all the way back to my childhood. Another guy, man, who, like I said, whether he was he was a singles wrestler or a tag team wrestler, I got very excited when I watched him wrestle. Another one, man, and this is he became a partner of Ricky Steamboat too. But before he was the partner of Ricky Steamboat, this guy used to excite me. Like I say, hey, I used to get very excited when I seen him, and like I say, and just get very, my body would just get, just turn to, I don't know. It's just, like I say, you just get that tingling feeling when you get to see somebody that you really, love to watch or whatever, or like say, listen to music from, or something like that. Somebody that really excites you, and he did. And the next guy, man, I would say number one, Paul Jones, guys. Number one, Paul Jones is another guy. He did the same thing, man. When I got to see this guy, when he came out and talked, or when he got in the ring, this guy amazed me. He just gave me that feeling, man. That feeling that pretty much, like I say, it was just an overwhelming feeling that you get, like I said, when you see somebody, or or listen to somebody, that you really adore. And he was one of these guys, man. He was one of those guys that really did it. He amazed me in and out of the ring, guys. Basically in the ring. All right. So right there, that was all the way back to my childhood, man. It's 1975, maybe to like 1977. Between like 8 and 10 years old. Like I said, these guys really, hey, they, I guess you could say like a lot of the things they like to say is move the needle, but these guys, they moved the human spirit. They was able to have you gravitate. They was able to pretty much come into your home and have you gravitate toward them and really like them and understand them, and I was doing that as a kid. So, man, I can move on from that. Who else did that? Somebody else did that in the 70s. I would say Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, he came to the Mid-Atlantic Championship area, and he did the same thing to me. He pretty much, I love the way he wrestled, how high he could get up in the air with those drop kicks and everything. And he looked like the all-American boy, just like a real nice guy. And, he just really excited me with his wrestling. And he was one of these guys that was almost exciting to watch as Ricky Steamboat or Ric Flair. He was right up there with him. So I was real excited to see him. Another one who did that, it was a guy named Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo, and I'm talking about the Dino Bravo from the 70s, man, the mid-70s. Dino Bravo, who's teamed up with Gino Brito. Dino Bravo was just incredible. Dino Bravo did the same thing. Man, he had me feeling that same way. Dino Bravo, this is before he got all real big and husky. He was a big guy at that time too. But Dino Bravo, I was really amazed at the way that this guy used to work in and out of the ring. I mean, in and out of the ring. Well, basically in the ring, he was so incredible, so athletic, and did things that I never had seen before. So I really got excited to see Dino Bravo. Another one, man, was Mil Mascaras, man. Mil Mascaras, who's the IWA World Heavyweight Champion. He was really incredible. He was an incredible specimen to see. This guy wore a mask, Mexican wrestler, Lucha Libre before we seen all the other stuff that a lot of these guys do. But he was high flying back in the day. He was doing a lot of these things that later on you saw Rey Mysterio do. And Rey Mysterio and all these guys, of course, they took it to a new level. They took it to a higher level. But Mil Mascaras was the first one to do it. And Mil Mascaras was just one of these incredible wrestlers. And Mil Mascaras was right up there on the same scale. He was right there as far as on the mark with Dusty Rhodes, man, and Andre the Giant. As far as popularity, he was one of the most popular wrestlers in the world. Mil Mascaras was incredible, guys. So big ups to Mil Mascaras. He was one of those guys, like I said, man, that just that moved my human, just moved my human spirit, and just just made me jump and say, hey man, I love watching this guy. Like I say, I was a kid, I love watching him, and wow, man, I just never forget the things and all the exploits that happened with him back in his day when he was wrestling. This guy really put on a show. All right, man, the next guy, who else did that? And like I said, I'm just coming off the dome, guys, and I'm trying to think about everybody that that I watched back in the 70s that really moved me. I'm gonna go ahead and go with one heel, and no, I'll go two heels. One heel, man, Angelo Moscow. Angelo Moscow used to do the same thing to me. Like I said, it's not that I was excited or very happy to see him, but no, he used to excite me because he was such a good wrestler, such a good brawler. And anytime that anytime he got in the ring, this guy was just an incredible specimen to watch. He tore his opponents to pieces. Angelo King Kong Moscow was, wow, he was just a crazy guy to really watch, and somebody really amazing to look at. I mean, he got in the ring, he did it. He entertained the crowd. He entertained you, whether you like baby faces or heels, but most people was into the baby faces. But you could not deny the things that this man brought to the ring. So yeah, he really did. He was an exciting person to watch. So I have to say, Angelo Moscow, another heel, man, back in the day. And that was back in 79. And that's like I was 11, 12 years old. Another heel came on the scene, did the same thing. He got me excited, pretty much like Angelo Moscow. But, I have to put him in the mix with Jim Brunzell, Jumping Jim Brunzell, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. He was a smaller guy around their size. Pretty much, excited me the same type of way. He was a little bit taller maybe than Flair and all them, because I think he was like 6'2". But Roddy Piper, this guy was just crazy, man, crazy talented, crazy skilled. I used to love to listen to his promos and watch him in the ring. He did some amazing things, and he was a young guy, but did some amazing things in the ring. So I really love watching Roddy Piper. Man, another guy that came in and did it between like 79 and 80. Another guy, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and this was I'm getting into my teens almost, guys. But Jimmy Superfly Snuka diving off that top rope, man, and landing on people. The guy, as a bodybuilder, he had a body that a lot of wrestlers didn't have. He was just great. And at that time, he was teaming with Paul Orndorff. Before Paul Orndorff called himself Mr. Wonderful, but they was the NWA World Heavyweight Champions, Tag Team Champions. And Jimmy Snuka was the class of that group. He pretty much led that team. And Jimmy Snuka, he was just incredible, guys. And I know later on in his career, he did some things that he shouldn't have did, and there's a mark against him. But that doesn't take away from anything that he done in the ring. The things that he did in the ring. The guy was incredible, man. And like I said, I was very excited to see him. And he just overwhelmed my senses when he came out and did his thing in the ring. Incredible. Jimmy Snuka. And like I said, guys, I am just going off the top of my dome. And guys, I can remember another guy back in the 70s. A little bit before Jimmy Snuka, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Now, I didn't like the American Dream in the 80s, and pretty much ended up, didn't really like him because, he had this big long thing with Ric Flair, and Ric Flair was like my favorite wrestler after Ricky Steamboat. Him and Ricky Steamboat is between those two, my favorite wrestler. So Dusty Rhodes, I stopped liking him, a little bit in, later on in the 80s. But I used to love this guy. I used to love this cat, man, back in the 70s when I first started seeing him, back in the mid-70s, 76, 77, 75, 76, 77. I'm like, wow, who is this guy, man? Who is this guy? He's cooler than a fan, man. This guy can talk with the best of them. He can do his thing. I was loving Dusty Rhodes, guys. And so, hey, I have no, I'm pretty much, like I said, I can't put him down. This guy was incredible. Like I say, he could talk the game, he could talk the talk, he could walk the walk. When this guy got in the ring, man, he took care of business. And those elbow smashes, man, they used to doggone tear guys' heads into doggone, crack them into doggone melons, man. I ain't gonna, or could you say he used to smack them like they was coconuts and bust them up. But hey, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, one of those guys that really excited me as a kid, man. So big ups to the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. He was one of those guys. Another guy, man, I first saw in the 70s. And that was Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas, when I first saw him, didn't excite me. He looked like a skinny kid, but was working out. But he was looking kind of skinny. He was long, tall, lanky, and, had muscles. But, this was around 75, I think, when I first saw him in the Mid-Atlantic Championship area. And I used to watch him and everything. And he was a young guy. And I was like, I really didn't care for him. But in 1977, turned around and I saw him in Georgia Championship Wrestling. And he was teaming up sometime with Tommy Rich. But Tony Atlas was he was the top player outside. Him and Mr. Wrestling 2 was the top players in Georgia Championship Wrestling. And Tony Atlas, they was using Tony Atlas to build up Tommy Wildfire Rich. But Tony Atlas was great. He used to wear a mask sometimes. They used to call him Black Atlas. But this guy he was doing his thing down in Atlanta, man. This guy was incredible. I used to love watching him, around 77 to 83. This guy, very exciting. I used to get very excited when I watched him. Probably more excited than I did when I watched Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat as a young black kid. As a black child, of course, because we just did not see us on TV represented like that. But this guy was, man, he was incredible for like 6 years there, for like a 6-year run, 7-year run from like 77 to maybe early 84. This guy dominated the wrestling scene, and he was one of the top 6 wrestlers in the world, man. Anywhere from 4 to 6, 3 to 6, year in and year out. This guy was one of the top wrestlers in the world, man. If you could not mention wrestling without mentioning the names of people like Andre the Giant, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, and Tony Atlas was like probably 4th. Mil Mascaras probably 4th, and then Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas after them. Tony Atlas was like the 5th, number 5, man. And then you had to go down the line like Stan Hansen, and then Ole and Gene Anderson and people like that. But Bruno Sammartino, you have to throw them in there, Vern Gagne and Bob Backlund and those guys. But Tony Atlas was one of the top 4, 5, 6 guys in wrestling for about 6 years straight, man. He just was. And that's the reason that I rank him so high as far as in black wrestlers today. When you look at the list of black wrestlers, they say who was the greatest black wrestler of all time. Hey, I always have to pull out Tony Atlas, even though, my partner Christopher Burton, he pulls out people like Ron Simmons. People pull out Ron Simmons. They pull out Booker T. And they pull out, maybe even Swerve Strickland. They pull out, Bobby Lashley, some of these new modern day wrestlers, or, even R-Truth is thrown in there, or Kofi Kingston is thrown in there. But as far as a black American wrestler, the top black American wrestler that I've ever seen is Tony Atlas. I mean, he was great inside the ring. Didn't use a lot of moves. He didn't use a lot of moves because he didn't have to. Had a great power game. This guy could get up. He could jump up and kick you with a drop kick. He was fast, like I say, hit you with a double hammer. He was just good, man. Could power lift, power bomb anybody, pick anybody over his head, and just, like I say, power slam you to the mat. And I mean, a full body press, and didn't take long to do it. I mean, even did it to Abdullah the Butcher. So this guy, and he pretty much power slammed Hogan plenty of times. Hulk Hogan, and he's the last guy. He was, the only guy, one of the only guys, the only guy in the 80s that I saw beat Hulk Hogan in the feud. He beat Hulk Hogan, every time that he got into the ring with each other, and that's right before Hulkamania. But Hogan was big, strong, and getting very popular. Was managed by Classy Freddie Blassie, but Tony Atlas used to take him out, man, all the time. Tony Atlas was just great, outstanding, and used to get me very excited, and got so many different people excited in the black community, man. Not just the black community. A lot of young white kids and white people used to love Tony Atlas too. They would come up to you, talk about Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas used to excite me, man, and especially when him and Kevin Sullivan was a tag team. I used to get very excited when I saw those guys. Same thing with Kevin Sullivan. I used to get very excited when I saw Tony Atlas and Kevin Sullivan pretty much together. Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. I mean, those two guys used to excite me. Ricky Steamboat when he teamed up with Paul Jones. But guys, man, wow. I just wanted to come on for just a little bit, guys, and pretty much do a small clip. I'm going to do a part two of this. Part two of this are wrestlers that got me excited when I was growing up. Guys, since, like I say, this was just a small sample, but I got to Tony Atlas, so I'm going to move on from that. But guys, I appreciate each and every one of you listening to the Straight Up Wrestling Show. This is HBT coming to you with my favorite wrestlers, man. Not my favorite wrestlers, but coming to you with the guys that excited me. And a lot of these guys were my favorites. So I guess you could say they was my favorite wrestlers, but these guys used to excite me a lot back in the 70s, man. And I appreciate all the way up until like the early 80s. I appreciate each and every one of them. And I'll talk to you later, guys, about the rest. I'll talk to you later. Stay straight up. Peace.